morning, Board. This is the continued Board of Elections hearing. Oh, sorry. This is the continued Board of Elections meeting from last Tuesday to adjudicate challenge provisional ballots. Since we're on YouTube and Facebook, we were asked to introduce ourselves and start with me. We'll go around the room, include the board. Alan Upsitnik, Assistant County Solicitor.
Lisa Michelle, Assistant County Solicitor.
David Voy, Elections Division Manager.
Bethany Hallam, Board of Elections member.
Sarah Innamorato, County Executive, Board of Elections Chair.
Sam DeMarco, Allegheny County, at-large member of council.
Council?
Thomas Bretham with the law firm Dillon McCandless, King, Coulter, and Graham. I'm here on behalf of the state GOP and Dave McCormick for Senate Committee. Thank you.
James Baker, counsel for Casey for Senate and the Democratic Party.
Board, before we begin, I'm going to have Mr. Voy sworn, and if there's anybody else that's going to testify, have him sworn. I think Dave will testify or respond to questions. If the board recalls, last week we voted on different categories and the disposition of different categories. The first category was if somebody was not registered, it was a no count. And I'll hand it over to Lisa Michelle, who did a lot of work personally to resolve the number of problematic not registereds down to maybe none. And I'll let Lisa explain in detail. Good old gooseneck.
Good morning. There were approaching 2,000 not registered challenges by the Democratic Party, a little over 1,800. The party was able to provide further documentation based on their findings. Thank you. We confirmed again the three cohorts that they provided after each additional day of review. And we located approximately 70% of the nearly 55 of the folks who were actually registered and inaccurately noted by our registrars as having been not registered for one reason or another. Of the ones that we've not located, I spoke with the Democrats this morning. It appears that there were double challenges. They were challenged by one party for lack of registration, but also challenged by the other party for perhaps missing a signature, which is an item of vote and remains outstanding. At the conclusion of this hearing, depending on what happens with those other categories, we'll go back and review and find out if there are any other non-registereds that are not otherwise impaired by a challenge. And if so, we'll conclude those in the votes.
So how many, Lisa, for information, how many are still in play? How many did the Dems withdraw?
How many, so they withdrew all but the 55 that we've located, that they've submitted.
Alan, Lisa, I'm sorry, if I could, if you don't mind, could you review those numbers for me again? I was having a little bit of a difficult time.
Yes.
The total challenged for not being registered are how many?
Was 1,864,
Okay.
of which we've had submissions of approximately 55 from the Dems, and we've located nearly all of them.
Lisa, I apologize, I'm going to repeat just so I'm hearing correct. So 55 of the 1,864, there was an allegation that they were registered.
We have located, so there was actually, I can get you the actual numbers. There was 11 on one, 12 on another sheet, and approximately 50 on another sheet, 2 of which had already voted. We have located 55 of that. So some of those others, the remainder, actually fall into 2 categories, so that they were not registered, but then you would also challenge on other bases.
Okay. And of the 55, have those been reviewed by the Republican Party representatives?
You're welcome to review them. We've set them aside.
Okay, thank you. I just asked
Yep.
that I have an opportunity today to review those briefly, and I'm sure we can get through them quickly. Thank you.
So I'm going to ask my colleague a question. So for adjudication by the board today, how many are left to be? Most of the challenges were withdrawn as these folks were not registered. So how do we want to have the board address the ones that are still up in the air?
Well, I think that they would fall under, Alan, I think they would fall under the remaining categories, whether or not there were signatures by the judges of election or signatures by the voters themselves. And once those are resolved, we can locate those in those other buckets.
Sorry, we're having a hard time hearing.
Yeah. So, as I was saying, there was a category of not registered, but additionally, there were other bases for challenge.
Okay.
Some of them for being not signed twice by the voters, not signed fully by the precinct judge of election and the minority inspector. So they weren't just set aside for for the reason of being not registered. So some of the location of them in the research falls under that other subcategory. So once the board rules and any appeals are resolved, those will percolate up to the surface.
So the board's already ruled, so we don't need a vote.
Right.
Unless the board has questions, we'll move on to the second issue, which is the board last week voted provisional voters not registered in Allegheny County does not count. Those ballots will not count. I'll ask Dave. Dave, how many of those do we have?
I'm not sure of the total.
Roughly.
Probably less than 100.
I'm looking at the sheet, and it says 242
Yeah.
registered in another county. So I'm getting confused here.
I thought we were all still referring to the ones that were challenged by both sides. I apologize.
Well, how would you address Sam's issue? Because you have the numbers, I don't.
Total challenge by the Democratic Party that are registered in another county is 242. Sam, you are correct.
Okay.
All of those challenges will be sustained. The out-of-county will not, no out-of-county will count. That's correct. So that's consistent with the board's 3-0 vote last Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
The third issue was where only one member or no members of the local Board of Elections signed the provisional form. And the board unanimously voted to count those ballots. Do we, Dave, have a rough idea of how many fall into that category that will be counted?
Republicans challenged those ballots. We have a total of 302 that are missing one board member signature.
So consistent with the board's vote, thank you, those will count. Now, when I say those will count, there's a 2-day appeal period after today. So nothing, these ballots are going to be held uncounted through Wednesday. If no appeals are filed, we'll proceed to count. If appeals are filed, depending on the issue, we'll have to hold those. And we have Judge McVeigh set to hold hearings on these either Thursday or Friday. So we're going to get a resolution of some sort, at least at the local level, you folks, the Common Police Court by the end of the week.
And is it correct, Al, that these are all sequestered in their various categories until
Yes.
all of those
Yes.
are done? Cool.
Yeah, there's no confusion. They're pretty well set aside. The fourth issue that the board voted on was that the board voted to count provisional ballots with one voter's signature, that the second signature is not necessary. That, if you recall, was a 2-to-1 vote. Mr. DeMarco opposed. The chair and Ms. Hallam voted for. So in that group, David, we have how many?
137.
So that 137, the board, we will count those subject to any appeals. My understanding is, candidly, that becomes a hot button issue in some other counties too, and they're ahead of us with appeals being filed. So appeals stemming out of what the board does today won't be surprising. We'll keep everybody informed.
Mr. Obsidnik, if I could address Mr. Boyd here for just a moment.
Sure.
One of the things that's very disappointing here as we look to adjudicate some of these is you hate to punish a voter because one of our board members, judge of elections or minority inspector, failed to sign the provisional ballot, okay, or the provisional envelope. But from a training perspective, I don't know where in the training it fits, but why at the end of the night are these folks not instructed? Because they're the ones that return the provisional ballots in the bag. Why are they not instructed to just at the end of the night to sit down and make sure to go through there that those are both signed by both the judge of elections and the minority inspector? Because then it prevents us from being put in this position.
I agree with you, and that's something we can definitely take into consideration, to have the board look at this stuff at the end of the night and when they're finishing up their paperwork. But over the last year and a half, one of our complete sections we completely added was we revamped our provisional voting. And I think it's helped, but I think it needs some more instruction. I think you're correct.
Thank you.
Sam, let me weigh in. I'm going to state the obvious, and everybody knows this. With 1,327 different boards, different chemistries, we strive for excellence. Perfection is probably out of the question, unfortunately. And people take a loss, as you point out, because of that.
I understand, but they used to do the absentee ballots at the polls. So they're familiar, or many of the folks that have worked previously are familiar with the process, right? And it would, again, it's just a matter of just procedure or process. And again, at the end of the night, while they're closing up, just to take a look at it and catch those signatures.
Oh, I agree. Yes.
Yeah.
Al, if I could just on that issue, I think it's just important for everyone to understand that the signatures, the voter is to swear an oath, an affidavit is to be signed. The election code's clear that that affidavit must be administered by the judge of elections and the minority inspector. So although I understand the point of saying let's clean up the paperwork, those signatures are intended to indicate that and confirm that voter actually took the oath and properly executed the affidavit. That's the purpose behind them. So I don't want to lose sight of the fact in our discussions. I just want to make it clear for the record, that's what the election code requires, and that's why those signatures need to be affixed to the affidavits and the provisional ballots. Thank you.
Okay. And Tom, you're free to say that, but that's the argument that you set forth last Tuesday. And no harm in doing it again, but I'm just.
No, I just did, and just the discussion with respect to kind of cleaning up the paperwork at the end of the
Right.
evening.
There's a record to be made.
If that occurs, we still believe that they have to administer the oath. If they do that and they administer the oath and the affidavit's properly signed, and they don't sign the paperwork until later in the evening, that's something that is at the precinct level. But we don't have that information in the record today. We just have the information that the judge of elections and the minority inspector did not fulfill their obligations to appropriately administer that oath, hence that affidavit is invalid. Thank you.
Could we take about 5 minutes, because I think we have, the categories that the board acted on last week have been covered. Those ballots have been adjudicated. I'd like to talk to David and Lisa to see if there's anything left. So we can take a couple of minutes.
With me. It was so funny. I was
Well, at
crying.
least it was fun, at least
Well,
it was
it's-
funny.
It was so funny.
Let me deal with
Hard.
the
Have you ever done roast? It is hard to try to think of funny stuff to say,
Oh, I bet.
about folks. Because I had to
What?
do it like for Baker, I had to do it for Jim Bryan.
Uh-huh.
I did it.
Thank you. There's only one item Lisa will address, only one loose end on our part.
So we have one provisional ballot by a voter, B-A-N-D-Y. In our registrar's review, there was an opinion that the signatures did not match. The Democrats have a challenge. We don't have a printer, because I'm going to hand up the provisional ballot, my phone with the photo of the signature. This, we would ask the board to review and to vote whether to count. This is the signature. The concern was that the voter signature on this,
I mean, this definitely looks like it.
and then this would have been the one with the.
I feel like my signature looks crazy.
Mine does too. All right. Do you want to see this? You want me to pass it down?
Certainly.
Is she?
Yeah. I feel like the J's made in the same way.
I think so,
You know
too.
what I mean? Like because sometimes my signature looks really nice, and
Oh,
then
yeah,
other
so-
times it's like,
Same. I'm always embarrassed. Sometimes I actually redo it just because I think it looks so
or I
bad.
go like that.
Yeah.
I would have voted to count it.
Same.
Someone want to make a motion to one way or the other?
I move to count it.
I'll second.
I'll call roll. Mr. DeMarco, count it or not?
Count it.
Okay, Ms. Hallam,
Count it.
Chair,
Count it.
3-0, this one counts, and we're done on our end. I don't know if council has anything to add or anything I don't know whether council has anything to add or anything that we've missed. Go ahead, guys.
So I just want to clarify that the board has voted to count provisional ballots where they're missing voter signatures. Okay. And then the other thing is if this would be an appropriate time to talk about mail-in ballots with missing dates.
Well, I'll respond like I did to Mike Healy last week. We're hearing provisional challenges. Mike made an argument. I'm not going to have the John Darms toss you out of the place if you want to argue. Then we'll get a counter argument on something that's not before the board. But go ahead, James.
Well, I don't need to go over territory that's been gone over a lot. I just want to make sure that there will be an opportunity to do so.
I don't know when that opportunity will be, I'm honest. I mean, any appeal from here is an appeal under 3157 to the provisionals, so. But let me add, to ease the blow somewhat, because this is a big issue, it's an issue of contention in eastern counties. Lisa, how many no signatures, bad dates do we have mailings? Because of our cure process, thanks to Chet Harhut especially, who's over there attentive.
Right on, Chad.
We have a very small number of these that would be at issue.
So we had 27 entirely undated, 143 dates that fall outside of the rubric of the PA Supreme Court Ball case. So 143 bad dates, 27 no dates.
So while there's 175 people that aren't going to count, two things. One, it's a minimal number, despite, as a result of great efforts with the election staff. And two, I don't think that matters in front of the board today to adjudicate or address.
Okay, then I'll just say this as a final remark. I want to thank everyone here, the board, the elections department. They've done a tremendous job these last months, years. They do tremendous work. And especially bearing with us as we, the Democratic Party challenged a lot of unsigned ballots so that we could have time to double check, and we were able to enfranchise 55 voters. So we thank you all for bearing with us on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Al, if I could just clarify some of the issues.
Sure.
The total, Lisa, the total undated mail-ins was 27? Did I hear that?
27.
And the total that were misdated outside the window?
143.
143.
143.
143.
I'm sorry, I thought I heard Al say 175.
I
It was one- he
said
was-
about 170.
Yeah.
Okay,
estimated.
I appreciate that.
It would be,
Now,
well, the
thrown out
the
there.
total would be 170.
Estimates.
That's fine, I thought I may have misheard. If I can just walk down Dave's chart to make sure that we've covered all of the numbers that are here. So, under Republican challenges, we've dealt with the dates. I have listed not registered 10. Is that number included within the 1,864?
It is not.
Okay, and those will likewise not be counted?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. The next, I have 14 that are listed as incomplete missing data. Have we addressed those
Oh, yeah.
14?
I did put a question mark next to that.
Yeah, because we didn't look at that last time.
When you say missing data, Tom, we work with signatures and board signatures and nothing else.
Well,
He means that 14 number out.
it's a category that we have listed on the spreadsheet that was handed out.
Right, so Tom, these were some of the ones that we reviewed this morning. These were the items that we reviewed this morning that were missing one, seemed to be missing a field, but actually the voter had added the address in a different field, and we resolved all of those.
Okay, so those are the ones we dealt with this morning. Thank you, Lisa.
So they're counting.
The
Okay.
next category, I have 9 questionable voter signatures. Have those all been reviewed and adjudicated?
I believe that is correct.
And I apologize, I haven't been here the last few days. Who handled those? The board just dealt with the one signature that
Right, and
we
the-
worked with earlier today.
Right, those are the ones we worked with earlier today that it appeared like a mother would appeared to have voted for children, or there were the set that we had set aside.
Okay, those are the ones we discussed then?
Correct.
Okay. Then the last category that I have under the Democratic challenges, incomplete, not signed, there's 483 listed there. Has the board dealt with those?
I don't think so. Those were Democrat challenges were either. They're covered by the other challenges, either not being signed by the voter or not being signed by one of the board members. So.
So we
we're
counted
not-
them.
They were already voted on.
Okay, so would those, are those added to the numbers that are listed above, missing voter signature, missing both voter?
We just kept the challenges segregated by party, but the reasoning was the same.
Okay. So, and Dave, I apologize, just because I'm going to get questioned.
It's okay.
So there's 483 that have been sequestered. There's 137, 148, and 203 that are still sequestered until the appeal period lapses.
302.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, 302, thank you.
All of these ballots on this list are still sequestered, even the incorrect dates, ones that were revoked, and the not registered that the Democrat Party dropped their challenge on. Everything is still set aside.
Okay. Dave, maybe I misunderstood you, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. There are an additional 178 unregistered no counts that aren't on this list?
The 178 challenged provisional ballots, which are still segregated, are challenged by both parties. Now, both, either they're not registered or incomplete, it's what the Democratic Party wanted them to count, and then the Republican Party challenged, being that they were missing a signature. So they all will fall into the categories that were already voted on. But once we determine what is challenged, what is appealed, we'll decide whether those ballots can be counted or not.
Okay. Are those in addition to the 3238 that's on the chart?
Yes.
Okay. And then I believe Friday that when you canvassed some of the machines, you found, I believe, 2 precincts, approximately 20 ballots that were in the machine. Have any of those been, I know they've been processed or reviewed, have any of those been challenged?
They have been reviewed by our staff. The parties did not note that they wanted to challenge them. They're available. They have not been counted yet.
Okay. And do we know whether they fall within, if there are challenges, they fall within the categories of challenges that the board is rolling
I
on?
believe they do.
Okay. If we could review those before
Yes.
I leave today, that would be great. And those would be in addition to the numbers on your chart.
Yes.
And that's, as you know,
That
best
is the world
information-
as I know it.
That's the universe of outstanding provisionals. I'll briefly reiterate the comments I made when we were last together as the board. It's been my pleasure to work with the folks down here, Lisa, Dave, and Al's, and all the staff, and we certainly appreciate the hard work that goes into doing your job, and all of you, the countless number of folks that have worked long, hard hours to assist us. The professionalism, the courtesy have just been outstanding, and I've enjoyed an opportunity to come down here and work with each of you, and I thank the board. You've got a great group of people here working for you. Thank you.
That being the case, I'd ask the board to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now that we're concluded, if